Have you ever heard about Henry Crow? No? I guess that makes sense. Folks don't talk about him anymore. At least not in New Orleans, where he was from. You might hear whispers in some corners of Arkansas, though. Up in the Ozarks, especially if you catch the right person with the right kind of whiskey in them. That's where this all went down. I heard the story from my uncle, who knew Henry's older brother, James. They worked landscaping jobs together back in the day. I don't know if it's all true, but the way he told it, it felt real. Too real. And after what happened, James didn't talk about his brother without taking a long pause first, like the memory itself made his lungs tighten. So, Henry Crow, gardener by trade, big guy, solid build, the kind of guy you picture digging out tree stumps with his bare hands. He'd gotten deep into weight training in recent years, not for show or competition, just said it made him feel clear-headed, grounded. Anyway, every summer he'd take a couple weeks off and head out alone into the Ozark Mountains. Said hiking kept him sane. He loved the quiet, the isolation. His family wasn't crazy about it. His sister Lisa told him more than once it gave her the creeps. Something about how cold it could get up there in the summer sometimes, and how the fog hung too low, long in the valleys. This trip was different though. Snow in summer. I know how it sounds, but apparently it wasn't just frost or high elevation flurries. It was real, steady snow, blanketing the trees like it was December instead of late July. Henry had driven up that day, parked his old Dodge near one of the lesser-known trailheads outside Jasper, Arkansas, and hiked in with enough gear to last a couple nights. He brought a hatchet, a big hunting knife, nothing fancy, just what he needed. He didn't believe in bear spray, said if something wanted you bad enough, no spray was gonna stop it. He made camp about 5 miles in, dense forest all around, no one for miles. Said the first day was peaceful, clear sky except for the snow. The trees were dead silent, no birds, no insects, nothing. That should have been his first warning. But you know how some people are. They get lulled by the peace, not realizing it's the kind of quiet that doesn't belong. It wasn't until the second day that things got weird. He said he felt watched, like, that prickling sensation on the back of your neck. That, but worse. He didn't let up. He turned fast, thinking he heard something behind a tree or off to the side of the path, but nothing was there. Just more snow, more trees. That night something circled his camp, slow, methodical, not a bear. He knew bears, had seen enough of them in his life to know the sounds they made. This thing, it never broke branches, it never breathed loud, just a steady movement, just enough to keep him awake. Around 2 in the morning, he heard it again, closer, just outside the firelight. He stood up with his flashlight and shined it toward the tree line, and there it was. Eyes, huge eyes, set high, too far apart for a man, reflected green, not red. Henry swore the thing ducked before he could get a better look, but he caught a glimpse of fur, long and matted, and what looked like fingers wrapped around a pine tree. Long fingers, not claws. That was the first time he thought about leaving, but pride's a stubborn thing. He told himself maybe it was just a trick of the light, maybe a deer, maybe cold and fatigue were playing with his head. By the next morning, his gear was torn through. Not all of it, just the foot and his backup flashlight. His main one was gone. Just gone. Not broken or thrown. Taken. That was enough. He packed what he could and headed back to the car. But here's where it gets really messed up. About 2 miles from the trailhead, He started hearing a second set of footsteps behind him, slow at first, matching his pace. He'd stop, it would stop. Turn around, nothing. Just the wind pushing through snow-dusted branches. Then he heard his own voice, not shouted, whispered, from deep in the woods. Henry. Like a voice too big for the throat it came from. He broke into a run. Right before he reached the ridge near where he'd parked, it grabbed him, came out of the trees like a freight train, 8 feet tall at least, covered in black wet fur. Smelled like rot and mold. Henry tried to fight, swung his hatchet into its arm, but it didn't even flinch, just lifted him like a rag doll and dragged him toward the trees. That's where James showed up. You see, Henry's sister had convinced James something was wrong. Said she had a dream where Henry was screaming, trapped. James drove up that morning and hiked in, hoping to find his brother. He caught sight of the creature from a distance, said it looked like a man and an ape had been melted together. Not fully one or the other, just wrong. It saw him too, dropped Henry and disappeared into the snow like it was never there. James got Henry to his feet, barely conscious, bleeding from his side. The two of them made it back to the car, drove straight to the hospital. Henry had a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and bruises in the shape of fingers as wide as a belt buckles around his waist. They told the cops it was a bear. What else could they say? But Henry never hiked again. Sold all his camping gear, moved back in with his mom for a while. James said he started sleeping with the lights on. Wouldn't go outside after dark. Started drawing though, sketches of the thing, pages and pages of them. Every one a little different, but always the same eyes. Too far apart, too damn intelligent. Here's the thing that really stuck with me. Henry didn't know anything about Bigfoot before that. Never looked into cryptids, thought it was all nonsense. But after it happened, he started reading. Not out of curiosity, out of fear. Trying to understand what had found him. He found a pattern. Stories from the Pacific Northwest mostly, but a handful from Arkansas as well. Some signs, summer snow, silence in the woods, a thing that stalks and doesn't kill unless it needs to, a thing that learns from you, watches, picks the perfect moment to strike. Henry still lives in New Orleans, keeps to himself, gardens in the day, trains at night in a little garage gym he built himself. Says it helps keep the nightmares away. Sometimes, when I go hiking, I think about him, and when the woods get too quiet, I listen real hard, not for footsteps, not for growling, but for my own name, whispered from the trees. I don't tell this story much. Only when I've had a few drinks and I know that person won't laugh or try to poke holes in it. It's one of those things you only believe if you lived it, and unfortunately, I did. This happened a few summers ago, up in the Bitterroot Mountains of Montana. The weather was freaky that week. Thunder threats kept rolling in and out like waves, and the air just felt wrong. You know that smell right before a lightning strike? The metallic one? It lingered for days. I just gotten back stateside after a long deployment. Needed to decompress. My buddies Josh, Leo and Darnell, all ex-military like me, said we should hit a trail, just like the old days, so we planned a week of hiking through some of the quieter trails outside of Missoula. Off-grid, no tourists. No tech. I grew up hunting whitetail, tracking animals through dense brush, following blood trails, so I'm not easily spooked in the woods. But the second we stepped onto that trail, I got this tight feeling behind my eyes, like something was watching us from the ridge lines. We brushed it off as opposed to our nerves. The first few days were normal enough. The occasional bear print, lots of thunder, but no rain, strange echoes. Leo cracked jokes, Josh handled the map, and Darnell just walked ahead like a damn tank. Then, on the fourth day, we noticed something off. Animal sounds stopped. You don't realize how loud the forest is until it goes quiet. No birds, no crickets, not even squirrels rustling, just wind and thunder rumbling far off. That evening we set up camp in a gully, thinking we were sheltered from any storms. Around midnight, Leo nudged me awake. I'll never forget the look on his face. Pale, eyes wide, finger over his lips. I grabbed my sidearm, a 9mm I kept in my sleeping bag. Josh had his machete. We stepped out of the tent together, and that's when I saw it. It was just outside the ring of our campfire's glow, on two legs, tall, maybe 7 feet, slouched, but you could tell it wasn't right. The limbs were too long, fingers hanging below the knees, and it moved like it didn't know how to move like a man, like a marionette with tangled strings. But the worst part? It was wearing a face. Not a mask, a damn face. Human skin, stretched, sagging, stitched around the eyes like a butcher's project. Leo whispered, "What the hell is that?" I couldn't answer. We didn't attack, didn't shout, just backed into the tent, silent as death. We didn't sleep a second. By sunrise it was gone. We didn't talk about it, packed up and moved on fast. But the woods didn't go back to normal. Later that day we found a deer carcass. Stripped clean but no blood, no tracks, no bite marks. Just skin peeled and laid out like a rug. Darnell dry heaved. Josh said maybe it was a cougar, but he knew better. We all did. Then Leo went missing. One moment he was behind us, the next, gone. No shout, no rustling, just vanished. We searched for hours, called his name, left markers. That tight feeling behind my eyes was back, worse, like it was drilling into the base of my skull. Right as the sun started dropping, we heard him. Guys, it was Leo's voice, but it wasn't right. It was too flat, like someone imitating a recording. Guys, I'm here. It came from the trees, just out of sight. But there were two voices. One said the same words, just a half second behind, like an echo, but deeper, scratchier. Josh raised his machete and yelled out, "Come into the clearing." The voice said, "Come into the clearing," in the same damn tone. Darnell muttered, "That ain't Leo." We ran, no plan, no pack. Just sprinted through brush and branches, ducking under roots. I don't know how long we ran. Hours? We only stopped when we saw tire tracks, a trailhead, civilization. We made it back to town that night. Never found Leo. Rangers went out but found nothing. Not a footprint, no torn clothes, not even the camp we left behind. I didn't know what we'd seen. None of us did, until a Navajo guy at a local bar heard us talking. He told us not to speak of it loudly. Said what we saw was a Yi-Naldulushi, a skinwalker. I'd never heard of that before, but now I've read, and I believe. You don't kill it, you don't outrun it, you survive it if it lets you, and you never, ever say its name where it can hear you. We got out because we didn't fight it, and we didn't challenge it. We respected the fear. But Leo wasn't so lucky. I never used to believe in that kind of stuff. Skinwalkers, shapeshifters, things that wear the faces of people like a mask. Not really. Sure, I'd read a little online here and there, the same way you watch true crime shows just to feel something when the world feels dull. But after what happened last winter, I don't even like hearing my own name said out loud after dark. Let me start from the top. Me and three buddies, Jesse, Mark and Dave, we'd been talking about a camping trip for months, something to get out of the cold grind of life back in Lawrence. I'm a lumberjack by trade, been swinging an axe most of my life. My hands are stronger than they ought to be, and when I'm not working, I like to go fishing out by Clinton Lake. So when Jesse suggested a winter camping trip out east in North Carolina, I was all for it. Bladenboro, to be exact. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that place. The one with those stories back in the 50s about the beast of Bladenboro, killing livestock, draining blood. Look it up. There's a lot of weird lore tangled in those woods. But that wasn't even what drew us there. Jesse's cousin had some land near the edge of the Bladen Lake State Forest, miles from the nearest gas station. No cell signal, dense pine and cypress thickness as far as you could see. It was perfect. We got there early in the morning, set up camp near a dried creek bed. The wind was already pushing hard through the trees, that high-pitched whine that never quite settles, like something whispering just out of earshot. We joked it was haunted, should have listened to ourselves. The first night started out good. Cheap whiskey, Jesse's god-awful chili, and stories that got more dramatic the more we drank. But sometime past midnight, things got weird. I woke up first, thought I heard footsteps. Not animal footsteps, mind you. Boots. Slow, careful steps, crunching over pine needles, just past the tree line. I lay there listening, holding my breath, like a fool. After a minute, I figured it had to be one of the guys out to take a leak. I cracked the tent open, just enough to peek out. Nobody. The moon was just a sliver, but the wind kept the trees swaying enough that shadows danced everywhere. That's when I noticed something. Just past the trees, standing still as death, was a figure. Tall, lean. It looked wrong, like it had all the right parts, but none of them fit together quite right. Long limbs, a neck too stiff, the whole shape of it just off. I blinked, and it was gone. I didn't say anything that morning, figured it was the whiskey or a dream. But that next night, Mark said something that made my blood run cold. "You guys ever feel like we're being watched?" he asked, poking at the fire. "Like something out there just staring at us?" We all got quiet. Dave, who's usually the skeptic, just muttered, "I don't like these woods." The second encounter is what changed everything. It was around 2 a.m. Jesse screamed. We all came tumbling out of our tents, flashlights jerking back and forth. Jesse's tent was torn open. Not like he unzipped it, but ripped. Claw marks in the nylon. Blood on the flap. Not a lot, but enough. We found him about 50 feet from camp, curled behind a fallen log, shaking like a leaf. He wouldn't stop saying, "It had my voice, it had my damn voice." He said he woke up to the sound of someone outside his tent saying, "Jesse, you out here?" It was his voice calling to him. He peeked out, thinking one of us was screwing with him. But what he saw, he said it looked like him. Same coat, same build, but the face, it was all wrong. Mouth too wide, eyes black. The thing saw him, grinned, and lunged at the tent. That's when he screamed. We knew right then this wasn't some prank. This wasn't a bear or a coyote. This was something else. I remember the stories I'd read a year back. Late one night while waiting out a storm. Skinwalkers, Navajo legend mostly, but there's been sightings all over the country if you dig deep enough. Creatures, that wear your skin, that mimic your voice. They feed on fear, and they don't just watch, they hunt. The wind howled through those pines like it was screaming. We decided to leave right then, no vote. I grabbed my axe. Dave had a flare gun from his hiking gear. Mark brought one of those collapsible fishing spears. Ironic, yeah? Never thought I'd be swinging that thing at something that wasn't a fish. We moved fast, packed only what we could grab, left the tents behind. But the woods didn't let us go easy. Halfway down the path, back to Jesse's truck, we heard something behind us. It called Mark's name. Mark. Sounded like his sister. She died 2 years ago. Mark froze, eyes wide. We pulled him along, shouting that it was a trick. But that voice kept coming. Mark, help me. Then laughter, dry and cold and wrong. And then the wind shifted, and we saw it. It was running alongside the path, just barely visible between the trees, like it was daring us to stop. That long, horrible grin never left its face, and its eyes, God, those eyes, black pits, hollow and starved. We broke into a sprint. I don't even know how we made it out without falling or getting turned around. That forest twists when you panic. But somehow we reached the truck. Jesse had the keys. We piled in, peeled out down the gravel road like the devil was behind us. And maybe he was. We didn't talk much on the drive, just sat there, each of us staring ahead like we'd all aged a decade. When we hit the highway, only then did we breathe. I haven't gone back, none of us have, and Jesse saw that truck a month later, said it still smelled like the woods. If you're thinking of going camping down there, don't. I mean it. Bladenboro has something hiding in those trees, and it wears your face when it comes for you. And me? I don't go fishing alone anymore, not even back home. I hear things sometimes out near the water, whispers in the wind. Sometimes it says my name.